Hey everyone, welcome back. So this is going to be my smallest monthly haul I think I've possibly ever done. So basically I went a bit crazy last month. I wanted to consciously try and pick up quite a few less titles this month. I'm pleased to say I think I've only picked up about 4 titles. I'm kind of recording this a little early in the month, but I've got no intentions of picking anything else up in the rest of the month, so I'm going to just do this video now. I did pick up 4 titles plus something else, which I'll show you in a second, which is movie related. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into what I picked up this month. So the first thing I picked up, that's not a movie itself, but is related, is I had to, go with temptation here and pick up a new mug. So yep, grab myself one of these 88 Films mugs. So obviously 88 Films, really nice boutique label. And I think they had a deal on their website where you get, they were doing 10% off your first order and free postage for a certain amount of time. So I had seen them on there before and was tempted, but by the time you added all the postage on, it was quite dear for a mug. So I think it worked out just under a tenner, so maybe about £9 delivered, something like that. So yeah, thought I pulled the trick on that one. That'll go on with my coffees in the chat videos, I'm sure. That'll be my new coffee mug. So yeah, that was cool. What else they included in there, which it looks like a little hand message on a postcard as well. So this came in the box with it. So like cards they put in the box, but on the reverse you've got Jackie Chan there with a little note as well from 88, just saying thank you for the purchase. So I thought that was a nice little touch as well. Came really well packaged, so yeah, really covered in bubble wrap in 2 boxes. So yeah, it's delivered nice and safely. So thank you to 88 Films for that one. I'm sure no one from 88 Films is watching this. Anyway, let's go on with the titles I picked up this month, and we'll have a talk about those. The first movie I picked up this month was a movie which I just completely blind bought based on the cover alone and the fact it was $5.99 on Amazon. And that is a movie I knew nothing about, called The Royal Hotel. So yeah, just saw this cover on Amazon. It got gone on a deal for $5.99 delivered. I think I went on IMDb and had a very, very quick look at the plot summary and just went for it because I just decided, I feel like it's going to be one that's for me. It's an 18 certificate, so it looked like it could have something in there, rather than just a sort of fairly bland, run-of-the-mill kind of like family-friendly film. It's going to be, it's going to be one that I might be interested in. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one actually. It was a nice surprise, and it's one of those ones where I can't tell you why I enjoyed it so much. It's really hard to explain. So I'm sure it's got some sort of message or agenda kind of in there somewhere, and I'm probably just too, not smart enough to work that out to be 100% on the message. But the story for this one is, to avoid as many spoilers as I can, this is kind of the framework of the story. These 2 girls, basically on the cover here, they decide that they are going to go travelling. And they want to go travelling to Australia. So they booked this trip to this middle of nowhere place in Australia, kind of not much around. And there's this pub which is called the Royal Hotel. They stay in this pub. They agree to basically stay there and work as barmaids. So it just follows these 2 girls working as barmaids in this pub to pay for their room, basically, and to earn their money. And I didn't realise it was basically, that's kind of where the film stays for the majority of the film. So it's kind of not quite a one location film. They do sort of go out on a few days and go to sort of nearby-ish areas, but never too far away from the hotel. They go to a place where there's used to be a pool, and they kind of hang out there on their time off. They meet some of the locals and sort of like go out with a couple of them and just explore certain nearby areas. But what's really good about this one, or what I really enjoyed about this one, for one, there was the guy who runs the hotel. I'm kind of ashamed to say this, but the guy who runs the hotel in there is an old guy. When I first started watching it and I saw him, I thought to myself, he looks familiar, but I can't place him. And then I convinced myself that he must just be some Australian actor that I'd never heard of, but he was really good. And the whole film, I just didn't twig who it was right until I saw his name on the end credits. And I won't spoil who it was in case anyone's in the same boat. I'm sure no one else is as thick as I am on that one. I'm sure you'll spot it straight away if I show some trailer clips in here as well, pictures. But yeah, for me, I just didn't twig who it was. But he did an absolutely great performance in this as well. But yeah, these two girls, they go to this bar, and it's very much like, these are two quite modern girls, so it's, you know, set in terms of nowadays in this time period that we're currently in, and they go to this place in Australia, which is kind of, it's not got the same kind of like outlook on life. So for example, when they first get there, the guy who runs the pub, he drops the C word on this girl just in casual conversation, which, you know, completely throws her off guard. And he's just doing it. He's not doing it in like an offensive way or intended to be offensive way. It's just the way he talks. This girl's sort of basically, it's split, the story split across these two girls. The girl here, who I think is from Weapons, if I'm not mistaken, that took me a while to clock on as well, but she was, I think, pretty sure from in Weapons. She's very much kind of on the fence about how this kind of different way of living is. She's kind of like almost sort of protesting against it, about how these people in Australia, in the outback here, are basically just living their lives, how they speak to each other, how they deal with each other, what they say to the girls, the language they use, the things they do. You can see it's grating on her, and she's not quite getting on board. Now, her friend, on the other hand, she kind of accepts it's just their culture, it's kind of how they are, it's how they've always been, and they've got to kind of like, they've got to basically blend in with their culture, or like accept that it's their culture, and that's the way that things are done there. And she kind of has a bit more of a better time, and kind of like jumps in a bit more, and gets a bit more involved in what's going on with the community and the people that are in the bar. But yeah, this other girl, it basically plays against these two characters' differences of, you know, dealing with the situation they're in. So yeah, really, really good. Really kind of interesting, just watching these two characters kind of like deal with the circumstances around them, where you've got all these interesting characters coming into the bar each night. Some are a bit like rough and ready, some are a bit more like, I don't know, a bit more mysterious, but a bit, you know, there's something else going on there. Yeah, I just really had a good time in this one. A really unexpected good time for this one. So I won't tell you, you know, anything more about that one because I don't want to spoil anything in the movie. There's a quite strong ending in terms of what happens at the end. And again, when the end credits roll, I couldn't 100% tell whether that was a bit of a message out there to the audiences. I'm pretty sure it was. I just enjoyed it for what it was. So yeah, that is the Royal Hotel. So the next one I picked up here was another one. Basically, I think these first three I'm showing were all $5.99 on Amazon delivered. They were on some sort of deal. And this is one I'm sure other people must have mentioned on their channels before, but I can't think of who. I would imagine it's someone maybe like Ollie or Sammy, possibly, or both. But that is a movie with Woody Harrelson called Champions. So yeah, this one again was really good. I went in fairly blind. I must have heard about it on someone's channel because something triggered something in my head when I saw it on Amazon. So yeah, again, read the brief synopsis, which is about Woody Harrelson's character, who is a assistant coach or assistant manager. I'm no idea with sport, so forgive my ignorance on how the sport works. He's basically like an assistant to Ernie Hudson, who's the main guy in this basketball game, and they're kind of like, they're not fully professionals, but they're professionals, but they're not like the highest leagues. And he basically has a disagreement with Ernie Hudson's character very early on in the movie, to the point where he gets kind of slightly aggressive with him and gets taken off the team. Now, because of that, he then turns to, well, one of the reasons he does, he ends up turning to a bit of drink, and he ends up getting involved in an accident pretty quick into the film. So, you know, very, very mild spoiler. This is kind of how the film takes off. After that, instead of going to prison for what he did for his accident, he basically cuts a deal and says he will do, I think it's 60 days, could be 60 days or 90 days. It's so many days he has to do basically community service effectively. And his service is he has to go and coach this team of basically people with mental disabilities, and they're, you know, a whole mixed bunch of characters in here who get together and do sports, but they've got no coach. So he basically has to go over and, you know, spend his time there coaching these people. So yeah, really nice, heartwarming kind of tale. It's watching Woody Harrelson's kind of like his main gripe or his main thing is what Ernie Hudson says at the start of the film. He's a great coach, but he just doesn't understand people and the team, and hence why this is a great blend for him in terms of his kind of like punishment for what he did. He has to get to know these guys and their different traits and personalities and all their sort of like different things that they need and how they react, in order to be able to get them to play ball. So yeah, it's just a really fun tale to watch. It obviously it deals with stereotypical things about people with mental disabilities. They breach those in the film in a few times, but it kind of is just like a nice kind of like underdog story where you kind of follow these team who are such a nice bunch of people who are endearing and kind of like funny, and just want to have fun, play games with each other, do nice things for each other. And Woody Harrelson's trying to like coach them as best he can to play basketball. And they've got this kind of like game coming up, and he's trying to get them ready for it. And it's just such a fun tale to watch. Now, I've said many times I'm not a sports fan in any way, shape, or form, but this is one that I definitely would go back to and watch again, just because this bunch of characters basically are, so worth watching again. Especially I think the entrance to the young girl on here was absolutely hysterical. That was so fun to watch how they introduced her character. So really enjoyed that one again. That is The Champions. Worth mentioning, this was I think it's an American remake of another movie. I'm not sure if it was a American movie. I think it was a foreign movie. It was a foreign movie. So the original is a foreign movie. This was a few years later, and it came out as an American remake. So I haven't seen the original, but there is one out there. And then the next one I picked up is one from the early 2000s, which, if you know me in the channel, is kind of like a highlight of my film watching or film tastes. But it's just one that slipped through the net for me at the time. So I picked this up based on the cast, and again, it was $5.99. I hadn't seen it, and it's got Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson and Femke Jensen in I Spy. So yeah, cast in this one, I'd like all these people in here. It's only a 12 certificate, which kind of like, I thought for a spy movie or an action comedy, it might have been a 15, but it's obviously going for a slightly lower audience level in terms of what it shows. This one, it was okay, I would say. I think the best thing that I enjoyed about this one was I quite liked Eddie Murphy in this one. Like, he was pretty funny on occasion. Owen Wilson, I like Owen Wilson, the kind of like very quietly spoken, whispery kind of guy. He plays like this James Bond-esque type agent, but he's kind of like they've got this guy who works for the agency of spies that is basically the bee's knees. He goes out there, he does all the cool stuff, he gets the best gadgets, and then Owen Wilson's character does not. He gets like the the kind of like pass me downs, the kind of like the old tech that's still kicking about. He's definitely not the one that gets all the cool missions and the cool tech to go out and do missions on. Eddie Murphy plays a boxer, and yeah, they basically work a storyline around the fact that to get Owen Wilson's spy character into a certain place, then they need to use the Eddie Murphy's character of being a boxer to basically justify why this guy can be in a certain place. I'm trying not to skirt around a few spoilers in here. So that's why these two are kind of together, but Eddie Murphy's not really anything to do with spies. He's getting involved a little bit with the tech. And then you got Femke Jensen, who's also a spy, which again I won't go into to spoil anything in the film. But yeah, fairly good. A few action scenes in this one, but I was kind of hoping it was going to be a bit more like Rush Hour, which I really enjoy Rush Hour movies. But I've got to say, for me, it wasn't a patch on the Rush Hour movies. This is one I might go back to in the future, but nowhere near as much as the other two I've just mentioned before. So that was I Spy. Now, the last one I picked up here was, where was this one from? This was from eBay via, I think, Music Magpie. So now this one, weirdly, was a similar story to I Spy in terms of it was an early 2000s, but horror film that, again, just slipped through the net. I'd never heard of it, never seen it before. So it'd be interesting to see if you guys who are into horror have ever seen or heard of this one. And that's a movie called Timber Falls. So, yeah, I'll be honest, the cover got me. A brief read up of the synopsis basically got me as well. And yeah, I think it's 2004, somewhere around there. If it's wrong, I'll drop it on the screen in the edit. But yeah, not much on the back. It's all in foreign. This is an import. I don't believe it's got a UK release. But essentially, it's these two Americans who are a young couple. They're going off backpacking. And now this is one of the things that I really enjoy about movies, where you see people, especially in a horror, when they go out backpacking or exploring. Again, I'll try and drop some footage over the top of this, or some images at least, so you know get an idea of what I'm trying to say. And yeah, when they're going through there, they meet the sort of like park rangers at the start and just say, you know, what's the best route to go on? What should we do? What's the safest thing to be done? And they advise them of a few different paths to follow. As they get deeper in there, they essentially just make a few different decisions, which, you know, might turn out not necessarily for the best, shall we say. It had a little bit of a kind of like wrong turn-esque vibe to this one. And then where they're kind of lost out in the woods, trying to find, you know, what's going on. You meet these characters in the woods, which are pretty much bad news. But yes, something else happens as well as that, I would say. And again, I'm kind of skirting around everything as best I can, not to spoil anything. But I'd say if you like the early like me, if you've got a soft spot for the early 2000s kind of horror movies that were out at the time, and you enjoy movies that are set in the kind of like woods and exploring different things out in nature, then definitely worth checking this one out. It was a you know, slightly above average for me, a horror film. It's not a massively great film, but it's definitely one I'll go back to. It had enough in there, enough fun for me to go back to. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything else from there. But yeah, enjoyed that one enough to, like I say, keep going back to. And weirdly, this one I think I paid about £6 for from Museum Magpie delivered. But if you look on Amazon or eBay or anywhere else, it seems to be going for absolutely crazy money. So yeah, I must have just got in there right, because yeah, I didn't want to pay any more than that for it. Really, it's a good film, but you don't want to play way over the odds, I'd say. But yeah, let me know if you send that one anyone in the comments, because I'd never heard of it before. But yeah, quite enjoyable. Timber Falls. Okay, so that was it. That was my very shortest, smallest haul I've ever done on the channel. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed those few pickups, and hopefully I've put a bit of footage over the top so you can see a bit more about the films than maybe I would be able to show normally with the amount of films I pick up. Yep, I'll see you again next time. I'll probably do another coffee chat video or something like that, just to catch up on everything else I've watched that hasn't been a pickup over the sort of last few weeks. And other than that, I'll see you again soon on another video. Cheers, guys. Bye.